live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know him as the czar of the virtual background, the one and only Pro GK Academy, Omar Zini, 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber, with a fantastic bookshelf behind her of all these acclaimed classics, novels, biographies, the most studious person in the goalkeeping game. That's right. That's what she is right there. And joining us is a social media sensation, first-year professional goalkeeper, the one and only Orlando Pride goalkeeper, Brittany Wilson, who's going, oh, my God, I can't believe I signed up to be on this show right now. What is up?
No, this is great. Thanks for having me.
I honestly, Brittany, we'd started connecting last year when you were in college, and it was so crazy because I was like, who's this person? And she's like, oh, she's playing college, and like you had like a podcast going on and a website, like a coaching thing and everything like that. And I was like, oh, this person's already ahead of the game, like completely ahead of the game. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal what I was seeing already. So maybe for some of the people, the newer people out here who might not be familiar with kind of your journey and everything like that, like, why don't you kind of sum up like what the heck has gone on with you since from Denver now to Orlando Pride and how you got this whole podcast thing going?
Yeah, it's been a ride. I mean, I started the podcast back my junior year of college. So I started that a while ago, but basically this year, from the very start, when I went to college, I knew that I wanted to pursue a professional career. And I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I just tried to take care of all the little details while I was in college, get a lot of playing time at Denver that would hopefully prepare me to have this career. And going into this year, I entered the draft after my last game at Denver. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea, who was looking for goalkeepers, any of that. And I ended up going undrafted, but was selected as a discovery player, and came out here as a trialist and just tried to, every day tried to show up and earn that contract. And then, got sent home once for the first time coronavirus spiked and the unsigned players were sent home, and just tried to, through the uncertainty, just do my best and hope that I was going to be back here. It was not guaranteed, but came back and was able to earn a contract for the Challenge Cup. Day after I earned my short-term contract for the Challenge Cup, the Orlando Pride had to drop out of the Challenge Cup because of the coronavirus cases. So I had like 1 day to breathe. And then it was kind of back to the start because I was only signed for the Challenge Cup and it was over after that. And so kind of just went through that whole thing again of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Then I'm back here. Mark called me up and they extended my contract, and now I'm on a full contract, and, just trying to approach every day as I have this whole year of, just doing everything I can every single day to control what I can and be the best I can for the team, and, right place, right time, but also prepared as much as I could for this opportunity, and super grateful for it. So it's been a ride, but it's fun. It's been great.
Yeah, it's definitely been a unique ride. And, Omar, I know that this is something that happens with you a lot with the social media, is a lot of people reach out to you and they're kind of in these similar boats where they're going on trials to different professional teams after their collegiate career, and they have these types of little setbacks and everything like that. And how have you handled that when you're talking to the kids?
No, pretty much what I told them is, try and get as much footage as you possibly can. That's why I'm just so like adamant about filming your training sessions, filming your games. At the very least, in situations like this, if you could at least, send some footage of yourself doing something productive, even doing shot stopping drills with your friends at a local high school, local track. At the very least, it shows me as a coach that you're proactive, but two, I can actually see your technical ability. And in these situations where a lot of teams are having to drop players and some of these players are looking for other opportunities, there's no guarantee that they're going to sign those same players back. So just putting yourself in the best position possible to just have some footage in front of the coaches. I think that's what I've been usually telling them.
Yeah. And I think one thing, Saskia and I, we were talking earlier off camera and everything like that, Britt, and, I'll be honest with you, like a lot of people, like they might hear like, oh, she's doing social media, she's doing this and that, TikToks and all that stuff. Like, how serious is she about being a pro, or does she want to just show herself, doing top hand saves, that sort of a thing. And I think, one of the things that really impressed me is that, even though I knew about your social media following, is that when I was starting to talk to professional coaches and they were giving really positive feedback about your discipline and your desire to really want to prove yourself as a pro. And I know, Saskia, for you, the hand in hand, you've been through this entire experience and you saw it from the highest levels, how easy it is to fall if you don't focus on the game.
No, absolutely. I mean, I want to go back to what Omar was saying, is that I actually enjoy seeing training. Like if you're going to put a clip up, if you're going to put something up, like, when I see this footage of like game clips, which are never done really well, you're not on ESPN or Fox or whatever. And I like seeing like how people are training, their technique, like their intensity, like everything. And I like seeing training clips of people, like, even the bad, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. So like my thought was on that, but I think that, I don't know. I think anybody out there that would think that you could get to this level and worry about you being on TikTok and stuff like that needs to find something else to do with their time. Like, like either you understand what it takes to become a pro athlete, and the commitment that comes with that. And so you put something up on TikTok, great, awesome, who cares? But that doesn't take away from the time you're putting into training. It's part of your journey and everything. And it's just a forum that we now have to share. And, what else are you going to do with your free time? Sorry. Like, exactly. You're not training 23 hours a day. So, so you put something on TikTok.
I totally agree. And I've thought about this myself as well, because obviously my first priority is training and becoming the best I can on the field and to my teammates and being the best teammate I can. And so I've thought about this. I'm like, I don't want people to approach this and think that I care more about how I look on social media, or if I have thousands of followers, or, that kind of fame or whatever it is. I mean, you can barely call it that, but I never want to be known as that. And so it actually was kind of a battle with me of like, I saw success in it and I'm like, I don't know if I want to take this any further, because I don't want those questions to come about.
You don't want your teammates and stuff to start questioning it, and your coaches and stuff to start wondering if this is why you're doing this. And I've actually been in that position and stuff. At the end of the day though, performance says everything. So as long as you're on the field focused and doing your job, have at it.
Yeah. And I think first and foremost, I want to be known as somebody who like puts the work in every single day and is doing extra and is doing everything they can on the field. And then, like you said, I have time after, everybody's sitting on their butts all day anyway. So why not? That's my creative outlet. So that's how I look at it. And then I try to also provide value for other people, show things that I would have wanted to see when I was that age, because I had so many questions. And so I'm trying to be that person. I'm not doing TikTok dances, I'm trying to provide value too. So yeah.
Well, that's a really good point, Brittany, that you brought up right there. And I think that kind of leads into this conversation right now. And today's topic is going to be kind of that transition, from the college environment to the pro environment, is that you have that whole big sister program going on, which I think is absolutely, I think first off, the way you worded it, I think is so positive, because you even said it in the content. You said, I wish I had this. And Omar, I know this is one of the reasons why you started your channel, is because you said you wish you had this. You wish you had a big brother, who could help guide you, during that whole type of process. So, as we kind of get into that, Brittany, why don't we just kind of talk about like this transitional year, and like maybe for some of the parents out there who might not be familiar with what we're talking about for their kids, what is a traditional year in your opinion?
A traditional year? What do you mean? Sorry.
Transitional year.
A transitional year.
Yeah. Okay, from college to your first year pro.
Yeah, I thought you said traditional year. I was like,
I probably said traditional year.
Okay.
So yeah, that would have been, you're like, well, a traditional year doesn't have COVID.
He absolutely said traditional.
A traditional year usually would have involved no COVID.
What the hell is a traditional year?
I saw Omar starting to go into Google being like, what's a traditional year?
So I think it looks completely different from club to college and then college to the professional game. But I think there are characteristics that remain the same throughout both. I think transitioning from club to college, because I know a lot more players probably are doing that and looking to do that. I was very nervous at the start, but luckily, you know, I got invited to my first national team camps, the U19 and U20 national team, about when I was in a junior in high school. And I committed to the University of Denver when I was a freshman in high school. You can't do that anymore. But so I was already committed. I knew where I was going. And I was a talented goalkeeper, and I worked really hard in training, but I didn't take care necessarily of the details outside. I wasn't doing extra fitness. I wasn't focusing on nutrition. But also none of those things have ever, you know, when you're that young, nobody really talks about them. You just kind of go to practice. You do a little extra outside, obviously, to be at that top level and maintain at that top level. But I wasn't focused on those little things. Long story short, I went to my first national team camp and absolutely failed the fitness test. I was like, what's a beep test? We're about to start the beep test at national team camp. You know, of course, day one, you start with the beep test. And I'm like, what do you do? I never saw it before. So anyways, I fell right on my butt. And I think that's what kind of set me on the course to be able to have a good transition into the college game, because at that time, then I had about 1.5 years, 2 years to get those details right, to focus on all these little details outside. Like I was talking about the nutrition, the fitness, all these different things. And then obviously the technical side of goalkeeping, honing in on those areas and identifying those weaknesses that then I was able to play at an early age in college. But I think that really helped me transitioning, is just knowing all these things I need to work on and being really focused on those details and being prepared for that next environment. And I think the same thing went into this year, right? Is I didn't know what to expect. Like I knew it was going to be next level, but I didn't know exactly what the pace was going to look like, what training was going to look like every single day. But I tried to control all the details that I could, that were within my control, like making sure I was fit and ready to go into training, making sure I was studying. You know, before I came into camp, I was asking Lloyd for film of the game last year so I could study a little bit about the style that we play here and stuff like that. So just controlling those little details outside of it, because you never know what you're going to get at the next level, but transitioning, just really focusing on all those little aspects within your own control, I think helps a lot.
Yeah. I know Omar didn't know much about the beep test because he was very busy looking at the ice cream truck while he was,
You know, so my freshman year, they actually switched from the 2 mile to the beep test. And then they sent me in for like a exit interview. And the coach asked me like, hey, so what's the one thing? Yeah, like, well, so what is it about, you know, the team that you think you could change? And I said, look, honestly, the guys are coming into the season super out of shape, and then they're getting in shape in the season, and injuries are happening because no one was fit. So I was like, I think the beep test is just so easy to pass. It's not that hard because you get to recover, and I know it's game stuff, but maybe we do the 2 mile again. And I'm just thinking maybe those guys will be a little bit more incentivized to work out and do actual workouts in the in the off season. And I don't know why, but the coach decided to listen to me. He switched it back to the 2 mile, and that's the first time I've ever made it public. So any of my teammates that listen, I'm sorry that I had to be the person to bring that back. But if you look at the track record since I left, the team has done a lot better. So I don't know if it's correlated to that, but I will say that I left.
Well, that's what the greatest goalkeeper coach in the world will do, Omar. He will.
That's where it all started. I'm not going to lie to you. That's where it all started. That's where I got my confidence, and I felt like that was my first investment into the game. So,
So which one would you rather do, the beep test or the 2 miler?
May fitness. But, you know, all honesty, I never came into national team camp unfit. There was no, it was an anxiety, because as a goalkeeper, you're doing the same fitness field players are. And, know, as a coach, you have those parents that come up there like, why does my kid have to do field player fitness? They're a goalkeeper. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, because it's a baseline. Because it's an athletic baseline to see where your fitness is across the board. So if they can't get a certain base, I'm not telling them to beat Christine Lilly at the beep test. I'm telling them to have at least this baseline so I know where they are. But, you know, that was something that, like, it was that extra time. It was, you know, other than goalkeeper training and everything like that, going out and doing my runs and doing, back then it was cones and, or the, you know, the Cooper or whatever. And then eventually, that's how old I am. And then eventually, you know, the beep test. But it was managing your time and making sure that you have to have this fitness in your toolbox. And that's the bottom line of it. There's a great story, not a great story, I'm sure she won't think it's a great story, but Kate Markgraf, who's the GM of the U.S. women's national team. She came into national team camp and we were in Florida and it was her first time coming in. And Kate, I love you. I'm telling the story anyway. I won't tell the story about, you know, the lake, but we'll get into that another time.
Now I want to know this lake.
Oh, I will.
Story.
She failed. Stressed out. She stressed out because it's another part of this. You get up on the line, you have to do something. It's also a mentality. It's also, how does that affect your body? You know, do you tighten up? Do you stress out? That has a lot to do with things. And she did. And she pretty much collapsed. Like she almost passed out, basically. And she didn't come back. She refused to come back to the national team for 2 years. 2 years. Every time they would call her in, she'd be like, because mentally she just, it took such a toll on her and she wasn't ready. But she came back in, and obviously she's a world champion and an Olympic champion, and now, you know, the GM of the women's national team. But it's a mental thing. So, you know, it's not just, hey, are you fit? It's like, hey, can you handle this whenever eye is on you and you're running next to people and this means the world to you? Can you deal with it?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think more than anything, working on those things made me stronger mentally, because realizing, right, like not hit, or obviously that was my baseline. That was the first time I had ever done the beep test ever. Realizing, okay, this is what I have to work on. And then trying to crush those details, right? It made me mentally stronger. And then being fit makes me way more confident, because I'm like, I'm fit, I'm ready to go. And then you can be more focused. You can be more relaxed in the moment. So all of those things really help.
Absolutely.
You know, one thing I want to say, Brittany, is that what you've been stating right now in regards to that mentality and everything like that goes kind of back to what I was trying to say, is that, like, you know, when I'd been speaking to different people, you know, they said that you already had the mindset of a professional athlete going into the professional trials. And I think that's why, even as an undrafted player, even as a trialist, you still made a roster and you're getting these opportunities, is because you already came in. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I see, you know, and I want to talk to you about this, is that talk to a lot of players in the college game. They've never even watched the NWSL before. They've never even watched the matches. Never even watched the matches before. They've never been around the environment. They don't know what they're getting into. It sounds to me like you already were ready for that. So kind of like, what do you think are like kind of like three main things that college goalkeepers need to prep before heading into that first year to be ready?
I think, you know, you can look at this a bunch of different ways. I think mostly I think mental prep at the end of the day is at the top of the list. And that's something, you know, I'm working on every single day with Ashlyn here, is just realizing how much of this game really is just in your head. And it's really how calm can you be, and how relaxed under pressure, and how much, you know, how long can you see the ball. So anyways, at the end of the day, I think at the top of the list would just be mentally prepared and ready to take on any challenge, and being able to be calm under pressure. And I think you can work on that a lot of different ways. You know, I saw a sports psychologist my last 2 years in college, and that I think helped me hit a next level, realizing that there's so much help that can be done on and off the field with that stuff. And it doesn't mean you're mentally weak or anything. I mean, you know, you're taking those reps.
But I did too, but I saw it for like reasons that you don't even think about. Like I saw it for reasons, I had this massive anxiety because I had never been injured. And I don't know, I got like all like in my head that, the time's coming. It's ticking. Yeah. How I've gone through my entire career without a major injury, like playing at this level and stuff. And I was in college, I was at Rutgers, and I was starting to get like in my head in practice and starting to get worried. Like I twisted an ankle and then I was like flinching. And so I had to see a sports psychologist for it. And I you know, you go those extra lengths. It has nothing to do. has to be with understanding how to compartmentalize everything and put it into the right place and deal with it. And you know, not hide it, not anything. This is something I'm going through. Like, it was the weirdest thing, but you know, I had to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, totally.
You know, Omar, you know, one thing that I know always comes up with you is a lot of times you talk to young kids that you're either working with, you know, at the collegiate level or trying to get ready for the professional level. And you talk to me, and I'm not naming any names or whatever, but you're like, sometimes like, I think that the idea of being a pro to them is more enticing than actually being a pro. What do you kind of mean by that?
Yeah, I think everybody's always wanted to live that lifestyle. And, you know, I know a lot of young kids who will say, hey, I'd rather play on the varsity team and be the second choice goalkeeper than play on the JV team and be the starting goalkeeper. So perception is everything. And I think a lot of kids at a young age want that perception of, oh, that's, you know, Omar Zini, he played professionally, when really you're playing on like a JV field in Sweden.
Yeah, but what's going to get you to start on the varsity team? Sitting on the bench second, or actually getting some games with JV?
Exactly. And that's what I always tell them. Like, you think about the big picture. And I mean, in terms of the big picture, I think, for example, I had a friend of mine who went to UConn, and he was saying that there are times where the guys who didn't travel, they had little, you know, mini scrimmages with the coaching staff there, the assistant coaches there. And he said that those scrimmages were so highly contested and so competitive that he was risking injury. He said that he would go in and like do everything that he would for game prep for these days to show off to the coach that they deserve to travel for the next game. And I think it goes back to Saskia's point, where it's like, she went to every national team camp never out of shape, because she understood the level that she was going to be up against. And if she came in with anything less than 100%, 110%, she would not give herself the best chance to play. So with these young kids, I never
wanted to give anybody an excuse to cut me. Like exactly. That was my point. Like I can be playing my ass off and everything like that, but if I came in and I missed fitness, sometimes fitness didn't matter. Somebody asked me, I think a couple months ago, we were talking about this, and they're like, so what was the punishment if you didn't pass fitness? And I was like,
you didn't play.
I was like, I don't know. I was like, I never got punished. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And they're like, I go, but had they needed to use it as an excuse, I would have known. Like, had I not passed and they wanted to cut me and said, hey, by the way, you came in unfit. No excuses. Not giving anybody an excuse.
Totally. And that's the issue I feel like I run in with a lot of young kids, is they don't understand the process. And you know, going to like a school like a UConn, or going to a school in the ACC, or, you know, going somewhere that's going to make them uncomfortable, where they won't be the starter right away, I think will really, really allow them to be pressure tested and adversity tested, so that the long term of their aspirations of playing professionally will definitely be like, you go through that adversity in college where you're not the starter right away, and then you get to the professional level, and then you get, oh my God, like me actually competing for a spot and coming into shape over 4 years, maybe 5 years, if you're going to, you know, redshirt. It really set me up to be like physically and psychologically ready for this next level, because I had to do everything professionally, prepare myself professionally, educate myself professionally prior. So now when I step in, that transitional period is less steep once you get in. So that's what I would say, is a lot of young kids will reach out and say, I want to be a pro, but don't understand the process. And then everyone feeds them that the process should be one that's going to be in their favor, which again, I'm not saying, you know, don't play games or don't go to a team that you're going to get a lot of minutes, because I think you still need that to develop. But when you decide to go to a lesser team, understand the reason why. Don't just go, it's the easy way out, but understand the perspective of it, of, okay, I'm going to get my minutes, but I can get my trial and error. I can get all that stuff ironed out. And then my next goal should be to go back to the team that I was cut from, or the team that I stepped down from. A lot of kids will step down to that JV level and be, oh, I'm getting a lot of minutes, and I'm the captain, great. But they're not. Then they get comfortable. Then they get, you know, they lose that little edge to go back to the varsity, or to go back to a higher level. So that's what I would say, is understand the perspective of why you're going down there, work your butt off, and then get yourself back up to where you want to be.
Or make sure you definitely play against UConn, because that's a brutal place to play. Trust me, those fans, the way that stadium's set up, they're right behind your goal. They are ruthless. I will never forget it a day in my life. Every time I had to go to Stores, Connecticut, I was like, oh man. And they sit, and then they move. You switch sides, they move to the other side. And they're yelling, they're screaming, they know your name, they know your GPA, they're just giving, oh shit, it's horrible. But it amped me up. So like anybody, all my UConn girls that I played against, I'm giving you props there. Your fans were brutal. I loved it. Bring it on. I loved it.
I mean, that's one of the craziest things, Britt, nowadays in regards to the college game is that, like, you know, people can just Google everything about you. And like, especially you with the whole social media thing, I can't even imagine some of the stuff that you might have started getting right behind you from some of the fans.
Yeah. You know, I didn't have tons of experience. You know whose fans are amazing is BYU. Have you guys ever played at BYU? No, seriously. Same thing. They're just like chirping you. They know everything about you. It's
it was
amazing,
great.
Actually,
Cornell was actually like that too. It's just weird. I mean, I'm East Coast, so it's like, you know. And I ran into some of those guys a long time later. They're like, "Oh, Sasuke Weber used to give me so much shit." I was like, "Yeah, you did."
I feel like with the BYU thing, it's like that LDS. Like they need to take out. They have to be so polite all the time. Like this is their one moment. Their one moment where they can like put on the little devil horns, and they're like, we can do it now.
Oh my God, he's so going to hell.
This is the moment right now. This is.
I want nothing to do with what you just said.
Oh my! I love the LDS people. Oh God, that sounded horrible the way I said that.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Just Mike, get off. I'll host the rest of the show.
Oh my God! All right, moving on to a non-amateur environment like myself here. And trying to be a little bit more professional. Britt, I do want to talk about that from the actual field perspective, because, you know, that's one of the things that a lot of people talk about is that, you know, the professional game versus the speed of play of the college game. What are some of the kind of those things in this first year that you've noticed tactically that is different? Is it just the speed of play, or is there anything else?
I think the speed of play is a very obvious one. You know, I had to get used to the pace of the ball, the pace of shots, you know, going against Sydney Leroux and Marta every single day, stuff like that. You know, I can't think of a better place to be as a goalkeeper, getting, you know, in a normal year, Alex Morgan, Sydney Leroux, Marta, all these people every single day, just, you know,
doesn't
going
get
up
much
against
better than that.
It doesn't. I'm like, this is heaven for me. But
yeah, see, that's why we're crazy. That would be heaven for me too. And it was heaven for me going up against Mia and everybody and Michelle. I was like, bring it. Like,
yeah. I think tactically too is just, you know, how smart some of these players are, and just trying to soak that in through every single person. You know, Ashlyn, like I was talking about earlier, just how much, you know, the game is mental, and how much, you know, just one or two steps can make a difference in if you save a ball or not, and just positioning on the field, and, you know, just so much more film and education on, you know, number systems and all this stuff tactically. I think, you know, in college we try to do that. We try to do film and all that stuff. It's just not the same. I feel like a sponge every single day here, soaking in so much just about the game, whether it's, you know, how we're playing, the style of play, you know, where numbers are, number system, stuff like that. There's just a lot to learn at this level, but I feel like, you know, thrown into the fire a little bit, whether it's being, you know, taking those shots from Marta every single day, or just having to learn about the game so much every single day. I feel like it's the best way to learn is just being thrown into it and seeing it every single day. And it's been great, really.
Yeah, but when you sit here now and you've gone through this and you sit back and you're like, God, I wish I wish I had this knowledge when I was in college. Like, you know, or
100%.
Like, and that's why goalkeepers get better with age, and the game slows down and the game becomes a chess match. I say that all the time. It becomes a chess match.
Totally.
You start to understand how to manipulate everything, how to move everything, how everything is working, and how you're not just the shot stopper. You're not just back there, you know, diving and stuff. I don't want to dive. I want to make this the easiest save possible. I want to, you know, manipulate the defense, the offense, and everything. When you realize you have that power, it's kind of a fun time. It's a different position then.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling lately. I'm like, you know, not that I never knew anything about the game in college and they tried their best, but if I could go back with what I've just learned in just this year, now compound that over 14 more years, you know, just the amount of growth I'm going to have. And then
I love that you just said 14 more years. I love that.
That's the age gap between me and the oldest goalkeeper on the team. So I'm putting myself out there for 14.
No, it's okay. I'm sure she's happy right now.
It's okay. Sorry.
No, but think of how far. Yeah, think of how much education you still have.
Yeah.
By the time
Of course.
that you're that in touch and in tune with the position.
Brittany, for you though, do you feel like, I mean, from the conversations I've had with other goalkeepers who, friends of mine or who have played in the, not Premier League, who've played in the USL and the MLS, they always say that they sometimes needed that like first training camp or that first few, weeks to not convince themselves, but like prove to themselves that they belonged. Do you feel like when you got in there, it was like, you kind of had to figure out like, okay, I know they're telling me I'm good and I'm getting invited to these camps, but I want to prove it to myself.
100%. I think that was the coolest part of this year was, I watched the games, I studied the games, but I never really knew what it was like until I got there, until I was in that goal, with the goalkeepers and then taking those shots. And so once I was finally there and seeing it, the first few days, and I feel like this year we've had 3 preseasons because we've been sent home multiple times, coming back. And now I'm kind of in a rhythm. I was joking with Lloyd, the goalkeeper coach here, that I now I know. I saw that one. That was great. I was joking with him. I'm like, I've gotten 3 preseasons in 1 year. And so now I know how I respond the first few days. Like I know how my body responds, how my mind responds to these first few days of action. So it's definitely, it takes a few days to get into it. But once you start getting in that rhythm, and I think a big part is just believing in yourself and knowing that you do belong there. My mom, I tell people this all the time, but when I've gotten invited to my first national camp, it was a lot later. A lot of girls are going when they're 14, 13, 15, whatever. I first went when I think I was like 17. So I was a little bit later. And, I played on, really? That's awesome. I played on Mal Pugh's team growing up. So I'd always see her in camps. And I'm always like, oh, that's where I want to be. I always had that goal. But once I finally got there, I was so nervous for these camps. And I'm like, I want to, I finally reached where I wanted to go with that. And I'm like, okay, I want to stay there. I want to stay in the pool. Like, I got to prove myself here. And me and my mom would always joke. She's like, they didn't pull your name out of a hat. You belong there. Like, you've earned this. And you just have to go out there with how you've prepared. And so I think that's always what I tell myself. I'm like, they didn't pull your name out of a hat. You've earned this. And now with this opportunity and with how much you've prepared for this moment, just go out and take it. But yeah.
Britt, I want to show this right now.
Of course, there was no like U17 team when I went. So
really,
I'm like sitting here going like, me too, but we all were.
Yeah.
So I had to add that.
Yeah.
I want to share this right now, Britt. I want to share actually some of your college footage right now because, we were talking about, having a tactical understanding and awareness. And I think honestly, one of the reasons why you're being able to, to make it at the professional level is because you had this kind of understanding already. So I just want to pull up this clip that really, really impressed me real quick. Let's see if I can make this happen right here. All right. Can everyone see that? All right.
Yes.
So, all right, cool. So it's not this play right here. It's this one right here. Okay. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I'm talking about right here?
Yep.
Okay. So let's just watch it in real time first, so everyone can kind of see it. Boom! Look at this angle. Oh, what a save!
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely brilliant right there. Is this the same one right there? Or is this a different clip right here?
That's different. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So let's just go back to this real quickly.
Texas Tech. This one.
Okay. Okay. So let's just go back right here. Let's just stop right here. So why don't you play us through this right here? Because I think, honestly, we've been talking so much. We actually had Lloyd on in regards to narrowing angle and about goalkeepers that, that run out way too far and everything like that. So why don't you break down this play for us real quick?
Yeah, so especially this was Kristen Davis. She plays for Texas Tech still. She's super fast. She loves to run in behind, especially through our back line. I think I've been working on lately having my starting position a little higher. So I started a little low here, besides the point of I'm picking myself apart here. But obviously here, knowing my defender kind of has her at the angle, making it, she's actually doing a good job of making it really predictable for me here. So I'm just kind of holding my ground, basically between my defender and the post is all I have to cover there. So I'm just holding my ground. When she then breaks that line, I have to make up the ground to cover that angle because she's now in the middle of the goal. So while she's got her head down, she's taking up ground, or she's going towards the middle of the goal. I have to take up that ground to cut off her angle a little bit better, able to make the same save. I'm falling away a little bit, but it's close. And so because my angle, I made up that ground, I'm able to make that save. And that's actually something we've been working on a little bit lately in training, is right when they take a touch around the defender, taking those 1 or 2 steps to cut off that angle and being able to make that save a little bit easier.
See, and I think honestly, and I don't know how you guys feel, Omar or Saskia, if you guys want to interject right here, but I think this is something that is
grinning.
I'm just missing in the college game a lot of times. And we sometimes talk about the lack of education in the collegiate system, and no disrespect to the collegiate game whatsoever a lot of times. But Saskia, you've even spoken about this. A lot of kids come into the college game and they're already shot stoppers. Great. That's awesome. This is that next step that's going to get you to that pro level.
Brittany, everything you just said is exactly spot on. If you back it up, your defender had the far post, right? So it's predictable. You have the near post, she has the far post, so she doesn't have a choice other than to shoot it in your bubble. You have that covered, right? So now what are you waiting for? In your mind, you're like, oh, come on. The only way you're going to beat my defender is with a long touch. And as soon as you take that long touch, I'm going to gain that ground on you. Either I'm going to beat you to that long touch, or I'm going to gain that ground and close it on you. You have nowhere to shoot it except for into me. And that's exactly what you did. And that is a fundamental understanding of the game, of angles. You're not just a shot stopper. How can I manipulate this to make it as easy as possible? You're not just, a lot of goalkeepers will say, okay, she's beaten my player. Now I'm going to let her get to the ball. And now I'm going to try to make the decision. Okay, so now she's taken the long touch. Let her catch up to the long touch. And now I'm going to make the decision. No, while that ball is in that dead space, close that space. Make that decision. So by the time she has another touch on the ball or a shot, you are now in position to take care of it. And the fundamental understanding of that, a lot of goalkeepers, that is another level. And a lot of goalkeepers don't have that. They can't read that, and they can't read it at game speed. And so, I was sitting here grinning. Excellent.
Good.
I was absolutely well done.
Omar,
and what's helped me the most, sorry, really quick, what's helped me the most about this is I just know how I learn, and I'm such a visual learner. So what's helped me, I think, accelerate my path of learning here at the Pride, and then even before, is seeing these visuals, whether it's watching games and other goalkeepers doing this, or seeing myself in training where I'm making those mistakes. Once I see myself doing it, I can envision myself making those changes. And I think that just helps me accelerate it so much more.
And I'm sure Lloyd does this with you. It's like, what happened there? Like, you self-coach yourself. Like, what? Like to the point now with my UCLA keepers, like, I'll just stand there and I'll be like this, and they'll turn around and they'll tell me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that for me is everything. I want you to get to the point that you understand what you're doing. When you understand what you didn't do, what you did do. And so what?
No. Omar does this for a living. Omar does this for a living.
This.
He's got the Dr. Evil thing going on right here.
I'm like, great.
No. I love everything Saskia said. I could definitely tell there's a lot of passion in there, which I love. I love it when someone's passionate about their points, and I think, Saskia, it seems to me that you're very adamant on this, and I'm sure you get the same questions from kids who want to go to UCLA. And I mean, even in the position that you're at, I'm sure parents will reach out to you and have them talk to their kids, and you probably see the same trend over and over and over. Like, what makes you special? Well, I can be a shot stopper, I can do this, I can do that. But it's like no one ever understands the IQ aspect of the game. And one thing that I've been not hot on, but we've discussed is how in a game there's mental checklists and progressions within a play. And I feel like the goalkeepers that excel at that checklist are the ones who can say, okay, in this situation, the checklist most likely is I got to cover my near post. Okay, perfect. And then once she cuts it inside, then I got to step up. But if you can adjust your mindset to be, instead of saying going through one progression and then once the next progression comes, I watch that. It's more so, how can I set my body up just in case she goes this way down the line at the angle, or she cuts inside, or she lays it back off.
Or she shoots.
Or she shoots, exactly. So there's a checklist, but at the same time, the best ones are able to anticipate every single thing on that checklist versus having to check off one after the other. So adjusting your positioning and your approach based on what you can anticipate could potentially happen from this angle of where it's at. That is what I feel excels and makes goalkeepers the best. And I feel like I've told you guys stories about my college career. I mean, I was never the fittest. I was never the tallest. I was never the fastest, anything like that. But I understood the game so well, and I was able to read the situations, mainly because I wasn't fast. I was slow. I wasn't very tall on crosses. So there are things that I had to be real with. And then from there, reverse engineer ways to not let those holes be exposed. So I think I found ways to cheat the system and cheat the game and put myself in favorable positions. But that's out of curiosity. And I think a lot of young kids don't have that general curiosity about the position. Like Mike said, a lot of young women and men don't watch the MLS, don't watch the USL. All they watch is the Premier League. And a lot of those guys are literally the cream of the crop, top 1%. So realistically, their movements are so like, it's not natural for a human being to have the same set stance as Ter Stegen. The guy could literally be in a diving set position, wide stance, sitting where his butt touches the ground, and have more power than you and I would in a neutral stance powering up. That's just who he is, and that's how he is. So realizing that people in the USL and the MLS and even the NWSL, you can see things that attribute to their success that will most likely be somewhat you can actually do. And I think that's what a lot of kids are missing these days.
I mean, look, Britt, I just obviously don't have to say anything about the environment that you're in right now in regards to just the world-class players that you're around. But like, seeing someone like Ashlyn Harris, who I don't want to, I'm not using the term freak as a derogatory term. I think freak is in the fact that like she's so good at point blank saves. She's one of the best in the world at it. She's absolutely incredible at it. And that split save, a couple of weeks ago, attests to that. I mean,
you're never gonna let me live that.
I'm never gonna let that go. Were you there for that moment? Were you right there No, I'm talking to Britt.
The game against the North Carolina, like last Saturday?
No. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the one that went viral from the training session. Crazy.
Oh, yep. I was right there. That was crazy. That was insane. I've been trying to emulate that ever since.
I said to Mike, because it was so grainy, the thing, I go, hey, do you see this? He's like, did you see that? Save? Who's that girl? Maybe I can get her to UCLA. I'm like, oh, it's Ashlyn Harris. So I was like, okay. Yeah. Because it was like so grainy, I didn't know. And he
totally
never let me live that one down.
Britt, I got a question. Do you think that, like, for somebody like yourself, who maybe didn't play at and then no disrespect to Denver, but you wasn't a top tier collegiate program, do you feel that it was beneficial for you to step into an environment where you get to learn from like an Ashlyn Harris and like in that type of environment rather than get kind of thrown to the wolves, on a team where you kind of have to fend for yourself?
I think there's really no better position for me right now because I have so much to soak in from her. Obviously, we're different goalkeepers and we're going to do a lot of things differently, but I think there's so much that I can learn from her, while also knowing, the potential that I have, and then knowing who I am at the moment, believing in myself and what I know now. But like I said, I soak in so much every single day. I try to be a sponge and just learn as much as I can. And, I can't even go into detail about how many things I've learned just, so far being able to be in a training environment with her, especially throughout this fall series, right? It's just her and I every single day. So all eyes are on deck and she doesn't let me get away with anything, but I would not rather have it. I wouldn't want to have it any other way. Like not one step, not one set position. I will not get away with it with her. But that is exactly how I want it to be. And that's what I hope, I provide for her as well is a competitive training environment where she's getting better. My service is good and I can make her better, but at the same time focusing on myself. And she's hard on me, but in the best way possible. So it's a really good situation.
I just think you brought up a really good point. And Omar, I know this is a conversation that you've had with a lot of people who've been in a situation where they're not a number one, where they're a number two, in regards to how much growth they can get from being in that situation, rather than looking at it as a negative, but focusing on the positives they can get into.
Are you talking about my entire career?
Yeah, I think Sasha probably would give you a little bit more of an insight on this. I mean, I don't.
You hadn't talked in a second. I wanted to give you some.
I'm fine with it.
Well, Saskia, you can go for it.
No, it's fine.
No, I think, I mean, the situation that, I mean, for example, for me, it's hard sometimes to relay that information because, I mean, my club system, I was the number one, and then they went to the Galaxy. More often than not, I was the number one. I had some injuries here and there that set me back. Then Davis, I was a freshman, so I was okay to be the number two, and then, excuse me, number three, and then starting goalkeeper got hurt, and then backup goalkeeper got hurt after that, so I was tossed into the mix. And so I was very fortunate to be, ready in those situations to, capitalize on an opportunity like that. So what I would say is from my own perspective of sitting out those first 12 games of my freshman season is I wanted to gain that perspective of the older guys. What do you eat before a game? How many hours of work or how many hours do you sleep before the game? How many hours do you work out in the gym? So you start realizing that these guys who have been there for 3 to 4 years, they've already ironed out all the details that you're missing. So why not just pick their brain, sit down with them and say, I know you're successful here. Tell me what led to your success. Some people are going to be more open than others. Some people are going to be more guarded and say, look, you're coming after the same spot as me. Why would I tell you? But if you find the nice guy here, the nice woman there who says, hey, this is what I did. This is the information that I was told when I was younger. This is what you should do. You take that and you run with it. And then from there, when the opportunity does come, you're able to capitalize on it. So it could definitely be a daunting task sometimes to get out of your comfort zone and reach out to older players and goalkeepers who have, I guess, more authority on the team. But if you, again, take the perspective of I am okay, not okay, but I'm realistic that I probably won't play this year, but there should be no reason why after my redshirt season that I shouldn't play. There's no reason why. And I'm going to take every necessary step. And that's when we come back to the point earlier, Mike, of a lot of people, they know the right answers. And I remember I wrote a quote that said, like, usually the best advice you could ever give is the advice you give to other people. The advice we give to other people is advice that we know for sure will help us in our lives, but that we're stubborn to take because either we're lazy or we don't see, we're just not patient enough to see that, come to fruition. So understanding the perspective of, I know I may not play, but if I get this information, I really hone in on the gym routine, nutrition routine, proper sleeping habits. When my time comes, there's going to be no doubt left.
I think that's really, really, really well said right there, Omar. I love what you said in regards to, honing in on every single one of those and just, basically, Britt, like, every single session. I don't want to say treat it like a piece of gold, but it is like a piece of gold. It's like, who knows how many opportunities you will have to be in this environment over and over again. And you have to capitalize on that as much as possible. I want to talk a little bit about off the field now, because I think this is where a lot of young pros struggle is off the field. So like, what do you think, like, because, one of the, I think, really cool things in regards to your blog and everything like that is that you have a lot of diet and fitness stuff in there, as opposed to some people who, let's just say, show this is the new handbag I bought and this is the car I'm buying and that kind of a thing. Like you're not doing that. You're actually more showing like, okay, these are the things you should be focusing on off the field so that you can stay in this environment rather than be a flash in the pan.
Yeah. I mean, I've just tried to be all about that since the beginning. I've always had the perspective of, I think I've had a little bit of talent, but I always want to outwork that by far. And so I try to study and focus on any little details that can give me that 1%. I genuinely think my career so far and then going into the future has been built on those 1%, right? Like getting 1% better every single day on the field, but then also off the field in fitness or nutrition or anything like that. And like I was talking about earlier, I think it came from that wake up call of like, okay, if this is the path I want to take, then I have to take everything seriously. And I think that came with a little bit of social isolation, especially in college, because I knew that this is the path I wanted to take. And I had to get my 8 hours every single night. I had to eat a certain way, whether we're on the road or we're not. My teammates will joke about this at Denver. I can't believe I do this. I still think it's nasty, but this one day we had a road trip and I had not gotten any vegetables that day. And I had like 5 minutes to make something at home in my apartment before we left. And I was like, oh, this is nasty, but I'm going to blend up a bunch of broccoli and put it in this smoothie. I still can't, I would not do this to this day.
But
I blended up broccoli. I know, right?
That's nothing
right?
here.
That's like normal.
Throw some oat milk in that and you're good.
Some wheatgrass, whatever else it is.
So gross. so gross. But I opened it and they thought it was the most nasty thing ever. So anyways, I just like wanted to be known, and I wanted to focus on those little things every single day. And I think if you ask anybody in my college environment, you know, I was known for staying after training, taking care of those little things, knowing what my weaknesses are and working on those, but also knowing what my strengths are and being confident in those as well, on the field. And then, yeah, like you talked about, there's so many little things off the field. I think for nutrition, it's kind of trial and error, and it is, you know, what works for you. I think what works for me might not work for everybody else. I think a lot of it is really just trial and error. And same with fitness. You know, I just tried to use my resources. I think that's the biggest thing. You're given so many resources at the collegiate level, and then especially at the pro level. Use them, you know, use them. My strength coach was like my best friend in college because I was trying to soak in all the things he knew. He knows way more about that arena than I do. So I just tried to soak it in and actually learn, okay, I'm doing this squat, but why am I doing this squat? You know, how can, you know, the tempo of this increase, you know, my explosiveness and all this stuff. So I really tried to focus on all the details, you know, whether it's in warm up or not. You know, I would get on my teammates, right, for not doing the warm up exactly at 100%, because I think it's those details that make the difference, those little 1%. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
I agree 100%. I was having a conversation with Casey Murphy actually, because we were talking about like what I did when we both went to Rutgers and what I did and everything. And your resources, you don't realize what you have. You have to reach out. I mean, my strength coach, Tom Scott, was my best friend too, but I trained with the women's basketball team when they were doing footwork. And it was winter. I trained with the Rutgers track coach to work on my explosiveness and speed. Like I found every possible way that I could be better, like at the littlest things. You know, and how do I work on like getting off the line really quick? Well, who better than a track coach, a sprint coach? So, you know, 3 times a week I was on the track, and all those little things. And I was talking to Casey about it. I said, you have to remember, it's the ones that are doing the extra. It's the ones that are finding those little things that's going to make the difference. Because don't ever think you're the only one doing it. And I can't stand when people say that. Nobody works harder than me. Bullshit. Okay? Bullshit. Because if you assume that, that's not, number one, that's not why we've won 4 World Cups, because everybody on that damn team works just as hard as you. And that's not why you're playing pro, because you don't know what everybody's doing off the field and when they're not with you. So assume that everybody is working just as hard as you. Hope everybody is, and especially assume the person after your position is. So when your third goalkeeper or when Ashlyn goes home, like don't assume she's just going home and like, you know, working, playing video games or something. She might be awesome. You know damn well she's not. So
no way.
And that, you know, to get to that other level and everything, when it comes to fitness, nutrition, everything, you have to use everything you have. Everything. If you have a nutritionist, talk to them. If you have a therapist, talk to them. If you a track coach, talk to them. But that makes a difference. I'm sorry, it does.
I think you make a really good point, because you know, it's not about comparing myself to other people. I think in so many ways that applies, right? I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm working this much harder than this person and this much harder than this person. I think it's knowing yourself and knowing what you need to work on. And then, like you said, trying to just soak in what I can and learn from these people and use those resources.
And and talk to your coaches, realize what your weaknesses are and find other ways to do it. Not everything's on the soccer field. There are other ways to figure it out.
Yeah. Omar, I've got a question for you. You know, you work with a lot of pros in the off season and everything like that. Like, can you kind of tell, you know, when you start working with a young pro, whether they're on the right path and whether they've been following the protocol that kind of had been laid out for them in the off season?
Absolutely. You see some guys who come out to the sessions and, you know, put their gloves on, maybe do one little stretch and they're ready to go. And then you see I've had Kaylee Collins, who's from USC. And we have a tough, before the session, by the way, she has, bands around her legs. She's doing all these little, stretches, and she gets there 30 minutes early. Then I have a kid who shows up like 5 minutes before, does a little stretch here and there, then hops in the field. After training's done, the person who got there 5 minutes before training is the first one gone. I have my next session, and Kaylee's on the sideline, or, on the side of the field doing core exercises, doing push-ups, sit-ups. So when you start seeing those kind of trends in a person, you realize that this person, didn't wake up with these good habits. They started realizing what it was going to take, and they reverse engineered of, you know what, I'm going to already have to be fit when I go to the pros. I'm going to have to have a good core. I'm going to have to look the part, for lack of a better way. You know what I mean? You have to look the part. And when you get to that position, it's just like, okay, you're just doing things on an accelerated level, but your body's already familiar with all this stuff. So it's not a shock to your system. And I think that's what a lot of people don't want to, and me included, I'll say myself as well. One reason why I probably wouldn't have made it pro is because I didn't have the patience to trust the process, nor did I ever try and trust the process because I was very lazy and impatient. And I think a lot of times when you are in a process and you try something new, even going on YouTube, I mean, as a coach now, I'm realizing, or I went on a run, for example, and I was wondering, why do my knees keep hurting? So I went on YouTube and I said, how to lower impact on knees when going for a run. And it was like, you have to stretch the glutes, you have to stretch the inside of the thighs. And so I'm realizing what I have to do to get my body in a position. This past 2 days, I beat my mile time. I don't know if it was because of the stretches, but I'm realizing that just looking up information, and at the very least, you're learning something. And if it doesn't work, at least you know what doesn't work. You're not gonna get to that position and go, okay, now I have to figure it out. You have to understand that when you get to where you are, you have to have already figured it out. And now you're open to learning new lessons versus learning those lessons that your competitor, your competition has already learned prior.
Look, anybody thinks that they can just show up and be the best is crazy. I'm sorry.
Totally, yeah.
I don't care if you talk to Michael Jordan. I don't care who you talk to. Like, it's the time you put in. It's fine. It is. And you just don't walk up to the field. And everybody has a different path, if that's how she handles it and stuff like that. But the bottom line is, you're not that great. I'm sorry. You can't just walk up to a field, strap your gloves on, play for an hour and a half, go home, and not worry about it for another day. Like, if you can stay where you're at, but you're not going to go any further. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you really brought a really great point in regards to that because, by the way, getting back to Omar, I thought when you said the video thing about the knee thing, I thought it was like, I was looking up this because I was looking about knee soreness, like when you're running, and it was actually Brittany, and she was actually giving a DIY on how you can take care of this. I thought that was going to be the
good plug right there.
I thought that was going to be the segue right in there.
Omar, I also hate to tell you, it's called getting old. It is. Sorry.
That's why Brittany's there at those pride trainings, so she can take all that through ball work. Let her keep hitting the ground right there in those situations.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about this with you, Britt. I want to talk about like the mistakes that a lot of first year pros make entering in that pro environment, and obviously I don't want you to call anybody out or whatever, but like, are there certain trends that you've recognized or just when you've spoken to people in the past that you're like, ooh, I do not want to make this mistake. I am glad that I've learned this prior to getting into this environment.
Yeah, I think you touched on it a bit earlier. I think Omar, you touched on this as well. I think there's people who want to be here to call themselves a pro and to just kind of say they did it. And then there's people who are really dedicated and want to reach that next level for themselves and for their teammates and for a better reason than just saying, oh, I'm a pro and I did this. And so, I was able to, from the very beginning, I can see who's been there the longest. We've got a lot of people who are veterans and been here for a long time. So just recognizing what they're doing on and off the field, before training, how they're getting treatment, all these different things, how they're managing their body. Because if I want to make a career for myself, I'm going to have to learn from them. I'm not
14
trying to be
years.
Here. Yeah, 14 years, right? Now I've got to stick around for 14 years if I said that. But yeah, so just trying to learn, who are the girls who have been doing this for a while, who have found success in this, and what do their habits look like, versus just going in and trying to get by and trying to kind of hide and not make mistakes. Like, I want to make a ton of mistakes in training, to be honest. I really do. And it's different. It's hard as a trialist. I'll totally admit, like I went in and I didn't want to make any mistakes and I wanted to be perfect because I'm trying to prove myself. But now, you know, I think there's so much value in making those mistakes, in realizing what your weaknesses are, and just giving 100% focus and intention at training and off the field, and then just learning from those veterans and like Omar said before, and just learning what they did to get there, stay there, and then excel.
Listen, if you think a coach doesn't realize that, like, you're coming in and like anybody that's listening is coming in and playing it safe, like, coach sees it. Like, you know, like, I want to see you make the mistakes. I want to see you extend your range. I want to see you learn. And the only way you can do that is by making mistakes and adjusting them. And I want to see you grow from that. You know, you know, it can be as simple as, you know, your range on a cross. You can stay safe, or you can push the envelope and then eventually find a new range. And that's what I want to say. So, you know, and that's what you learn from veterans. Actually, absolutely.
No, no, Brittany, are you there? Did we lose you, Brittany?
I am here. I'm grabbing my charger because I don't want you to lose me. So no, I didn't want. If you guys want to see me run across my apartment to do so,
that would be amazing. That would, I think, that would make a great visual. Instead of putting another Brittany Wilson clip up, we'll just run that over and over, over and over again. Oh, look at that! It doesn't even look like you even left in one way whatsoever. No, I mean, look, I mean, straight up, I mean, I'll talk about in your environment right there. I mean, you look at Marta and you go like, my gosh, you know, like, you know, if I want to learn about longevity, you know, I mean, she doesn't need to be doing this.
I played against Marta. Oh my God. No shit.
Wow. That's so cool.
Like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, that is absolutely wonderful. Omar, I want to talk about this with you here in regards to the mistakes thing. I don't know about you, myself personally, when I dabbled and tried to make a professional career, I think one of my biggest faults was that I took my mistakes so seriously, as if it was the end of the world. If I miss this cross right here, they're going to cut me. If I go for this 1v1 and I get beat on it, they're going to cut me. And guess what? You know what that does is that creates this this narrative that I'm going to get cut. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. The mindset, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's you get to a point where you're competing with the best of the best, and the finest of margins are going to separate you. So it's a realistic perspective and perception of it. But I think that's why you see people who have been around the block, who have played their, you know, freshman year, understood the nerves that they had in the conference championship or in the big games. They have already experienced that. So once they've experienced it, they can iron out all those little insecurities. And then once they get to those trials the next time around, they're going to be like, you know what? The coaches are going to see what they want to see, but I got to take care of my own. I got to handle and control what I can control. And I think that is what makes a veteran, right? We talk about the playoffs in the NBA or the playoffs in the MLS, NWSL. More often than not, the teams that are probably going to make the deepest runs have the veterans and have those players who have been battle tested and been through that adversity. So it is a realistic mindset to have, where you're overanalyzing and overcritical. But once you've taken that step to go to that first trial, then the second trial, then you start realizing, oh my God, I got this. I can do what I got to do. But a lot of people are afraid to take that first step to go to that first trial, to eventually iron out those details that they otherwise wouldn't get if they just took that step forward.
I mean, I watch it literally destroy some players, like that mind, and I don't want to say let's just say I'm watching it. And it's an emotional toll, and it's that don't want to make a mistake. If I make a mistake, and getting on yourself and everything, and once you go down that rabbit hole, like the fact that I have to try to pull you back out and constantly, that becomes an issue as well. You know, it's like enough. You know, like, you know, this is worse than the mistake that you made. You know, it's constantly questioning that and walking on thin ice and worrying. I can say honestly, other than passing fitness, I never in my career went into a practice saying, oh my God, what if I don't get this cross, or what if I don't do that? I just played, and I loved playing.
It's because you got almost all the crosses. That's
and I loved getting the crap kicked out of me, my Michelle, and I learned from it, and this person and that person. But like I said, other than fitness, that was my like stress zone. Like, I never thought that way. But when I watched young goalkeepers with that mentality, playing it safe, and watch them mentally kind of destroy themselves, it's a hard thing to pull yourself out of, you know. And all young goalkeepers out there listening, guys, you got to make mistakes to learn. You got to.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing coming into this environment too is realizing that even the best of the best constantly make mistakes every single day. And I think that helped me so much, because that was another reason why I was going and seeing that sports psychologist in college. Is I was like, okay, I want to go to this next level. I have these opportunities to do so. I feel like I have to be perfect. I feel like I can never mess up. And so, you know, it started spinning in my own head. But once I realized these people are making mistakes every single day at training, that's why they're at training. If they were perfect, they wouldn't even need to go to practice.
No, I think about the clip we saw that Lloyd showed about the drill with Ashlyn.
Yeah.
And they were tossing the ball. He was doing the side volleys in between the two, and she kept missing them. And then she made the adjustment to her starting position was further back, and now she was saving. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I think that's a really good point, Brittany, in regards to the fact that even the veterans make mistakes. I think that's one of the biggest issues for me, was that I was so focused on myself, I wasn't even recognizing the other people in front of me. This is not a therapy session for me, guys. I'm just trying to justify the reasons that I did not get to the level that I wanted to get to. Let's move on.
That's why you're a comedian. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They all say all comedians are like damaged somehow.
Yeah, we're damaged human beings.
It was from soccer. I love you, Mike.
It was absolutely from soccer and from me. Well, for me, a lot of it was like, I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a decency. I'm able to meet people and talk and network and stuff like that. So I started thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm just here because people got me these trials, got me these things or whatever, and didn't look at my own self-worth. And I think that was my downfall at those opportunities. And then I had to pick myself back up. And luckily I did get a few other opportunities after that, but this show's not about me, guys. It's about Brittany. So we're going to wrap up right here. Brittany, before we get going, and thanks for taking all this time. I know, honestly, this is a busy time of year for you, first year pro, a fall series, being the number 2 behind a legend. I mean, it's a lot going on right now. But I kind of want to wrap up with watching the game. Because I think this is something that a lot, we stress this on the show so much about watching the game. And like, if you want to play in NWSL, watch NWSL, if you want to play in college, watch college. And, so why don't you tell us a little bit of why you think that's so important?
Yeah. I mean, me and my roommate were talking about it the other day with Dave from Beast Mode Soccer. Right. And I think it comes a little bit with culture. I think sometimes American players don't know as much about the game, and no hate to American players in general. I'm an American player. But we don't know the game as much because it's not in our culture to watch football every single day. A lot of people are watching soccer every single day, and you're going to pick little things up. And for me, realizing that and starting to study it even more, it becomes, instead of just something, I have to react and I have to be athletic and just this brute force, it's turning into, okay, this is a chess match. How can I manipulate the game? How can I be in the right spots to be able to make the saves and then use that athleticism that I do have to make those saves? I think there's multiple layers on it. And the more you can see the games, the more you can see people in your position making those actions, making those mistakes, making those saves, the more you can see yourself doing it as well. And I think you made a good point earlier too. It's like, yeah, I could watch Ter Stegen, but, if I watch Ashlyn Harris, who has the same height as me, same stature, and I can see her movements and emulate that, it might be a little bit more applicable to me in my game versus, watching men in the Premier League. Although, that's great to see and great to study, but just watch as much soccer as you can. I think you can't go wrong, right?
Yeah. No.
Hey, Mike, before we go, I am beyond impressed, and please don't take this as like there's no condescending wouldn't be the right word, anything, just being an older goalkeeper and been through what your adventure is starting at and been down to, I think the sky's the limit for you. I think the way you look at the position, I think the way you look at our sport, I think what you're giving back, I know I'll be watching you in 14 years. So I'm serious. I'm beyond impressed. So
I'm really excited.
I will second that. I will second that. I think when we have young people come on the show, sometimes they trip over their words. They say a lot, but I could tell one, you're very articulate. That means you're a very thoughtful person and you think about the game, and I mean not the game, but you think about life, and I think that's important too. A lot of what we do in life, bad habits, good habits, are very much correlated to the habits that you have on the field, that you choose on the field. And it just seems that, from the start of this conversation to some of the content that you post, you're very thoughtful and all that stuff. So all I would say is don't let it get watered down. Just continue to do what's in your heart and keep on doing like educational. But at the same time, like you are a brand at the end of the day, right? The career is not going to last forever. And I don't think a lot of people understand that you got to use the platform that you have at the moment so that you can continue building another platform once you're done. It's not over once you're done playing. Like we see with Saskia now, she's on, every show in the book, and she's everywhere now. Her career has spanned.
I used to run nightclubs in West Hollywood. I took a pause, and now look, I'm like an owner of an NWSL team.
There we go.
Who knows? But yes, and by the way, your time's gonna come. Keep learning from Ashlyn and everything. Your time's gonna come. I promise you.
Thank you. I learned a lot from you guys today too, so thank you. I love it.
Call anytime.
I mean, honestly, I will second the thing, and I think in 14 years, when we do this show again, and we're all sitting here in a hologram form together, I think it's going to be a pretty impressive resume that we're looking at right there. Brittany, before we go, if anybody wants to reach out to you, one thing I do want to say is that the fact that you're so articulate and the fact that you're so comfortable, talking to people and stuff like that, I think a lot of younger athletes need to see that, because I think it's a lost art. Saskia knows this coming in as a young pro, that if you're not comfortable talking to the media and everything like that, it can make your situation very difficult. And I think that's a skill set that, that you have, and that I think you should keep imparting that wisdom to other young players. But where's the best place for people to reach out to you? I know you've got a huge, fantastic website, so maybe that's the best place to plug. So.
Yes. Yeah. I just built a website, BrittanyOneWilson.com, but also Brittany One Wilson on Instagram is great too. If you have any questions or anything like that, I use that a lot. Reach out to me on TikTok too. Why not?
Hey, that website's awesome, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to tell him, the guy who built that you appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He works hard
awesome.
on that. It's
I was like, who's she have in her camp? That's awesome.
Using my resources, like I talked about earlier.
There you go.
So and check out your Lights podcast too, because my gosh, some of the guests you've had on that thing. I mean, like Tim Howard. Like, we can't even get Tim Howard. How that? He's sitting on the couch right next to you. You're talking to him.
Whatever, Timmy. I trained with you when you came up to my hip, so you better get on this show. Whatever. I'll call you out on all. I love Tim. Are you kidding me? Jersey in the house.
Yeah, he was my first in-person interview. So that one I was nervous for. Yeah, he was my first in-person, not first ever interview. I had done them over the phone and recorded like that. But he was my first ever in-person video interview. Nice. It was quite the experience, and he was a great person to learn from.
He is an awesome guy. Yeah. Wealth of knowledge.
That is amazing. And guys, obviously, Omar's got a new breakdown program going on. Do you want to share that before we get off the air? Before the dogs go crazy.
I almost got through the whole podcast without it happening.
I think they signed up. No, it's it's about the EPL, and I'm doing a weekly breakdown show. So just picking certain themes that I saw from the weekend, and then also like a talk show type situation where I have professional goalkeepers, goalkeeper coaches on. I send them clips. We review game film of the Premier League of that week, and we chat about it. So it's been pretty cool. First week of doing it. So yeah, you can sign up on my website.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing Brittany Wilson sign up on that website. Right there. No pressure whatsoever.
Right away.
Oh my gosh, guys! Remember, you contacted Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion. Brittany, thanks for reaching out when we were back still in college and stuff like that. You know, I mean, you did a really good job of starting to connect with people before you left the college game. So, big shout out to you on that aspect. A little concerned about talking to college players at the time, so we kind of waited until you were into the pro game and everything like that.
Yeah.
But thanks for doing that. Remember, at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Make sure to sign up on Twitter for Saskia Weber at Saskia_Weber on Twitter.
My Instagram.
And your Instagram. You do love your Instagram.
And my Facebook because I'm old.
And your Facebook.
Facebook.
I do too. I do too. That's why this show's on Facebook.
I'll move on from it. I don't know.
Oh my gosh,
My roommate's 25 and I'm 22, and I joke that the difference between our ages is that she still uses Facebook.
Hey.
Sorry, guys.
It's true.
Britt's already thinks like she's too cool for TikTok. She's got like Cameo going on and all these other crazy apps and stuff like that.
I'll just keep learning from you youngins.
Oh my gosh, guys. All right.
I still pay my bills with a check and a stamp. So whatever. Okay. There's mail, look at it, like put it in the mailbox.
What you don't know is the Angel City mail room is just Saskia opening up and putting in letters on stamps.
There's just something about it. Sorry. Whatever, people. You can learn from your elders.
Oh my gosh. We could be going on forever, guys. All right, that's all the time on Inside the 18. We are out. Later, guys.
Bye, guys.